or to the left because the method of the trick requires that the back of your hand not be facing the audience or some other type of choreography with your hands that just aren't going to make it while you're facing the audience. To me, it's very distracting. I have no idea whether the audiences give a crap or not, or whether they just think, well, that's just the magician just needed to suddenly move to the left or to the right that way. But again, it's just something you may need to do it for the trick, but is there a way you can do it a little bit slower, a little bit less of an extreme angle? I see those tricks and I go, yeah, I don't think I'm even going to try to work on that. I want to continue to face the audience and to be working with them on this short journey that we call a magic trick and try to keep it keep it efficient and facing them. The flash change, I think Jay Sankey started it, and I love Jay. I love his lectures and his magic, and I've performed some of his stuff with it. But it's this basically a color change or a changing card where you're holding the card by the opposite diagonal ends, and you give it this violent shake, and it changes from one card to another, or from a card to a blank card, or blank to something else. And I just again, it's something where you start out with what seemingly is very natural gestures, and you are working slowly, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're shaking this card 3 or 4 times violently until it changes. And I just think that it's probably not very fooling because of that. It's like, well, he had this card and then he just started waving it around and shaking, 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 and nope, it's a new card now. That maybe the magician, even though I don't know what he did something during that violent shake of the card, and now it's a different card. Just something to think about. I also would like to recommend if you haven't either listened to the audiobook or read the regular book of Maximum Entertainment by Ken Weber. Wow, you just got to go. You'll listen to it and you'll start to feel bad saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm doing that wrong, I'm doing that wrong." And we all have done it who've read the book. I know that Ken, much like me, doesn't like magicians saying, "Oh, for my next effect." Like, what is an effect? And the audience will take the context clue of you saying next, and so they know it's the next something. And this guy who's doing the magic has called it effect. Okay, it's the next thing. But it still sounds dumb. Just say your next trick. You're a magician, you're doing magic tricks. They know you're doing tricks. Say, for my next trick, ma'am, could you come up and help me? Another thing that I think Ken says is quit saying, I'm going to make this silk vanish, because no one knows what a silk is. They know what silk, the material, is, but not that a square made from it is also called a silk. And the word vanish, I don't know if you ask 10 English teachers, they all kind of have a different opinion of saying of vanish being used in that way. I don't have a problem with it. I would say I'm going to make this handkerchief disappear. Everybody knows what a handkerchief is, which is weird because no one carries them anymore. People still understand that there is this square piece of cloth called a handkerchief, and sometimes people carry it, perhaps to wipe sweat off their forehead, and hopefully not as my grandfather always did, to blow his nose and then put it back in his pocket. So make that handkerchief disappear instead of that silk vanish. I'm going to probably end with something that I don't have thousands of listeners to this podcast. I don't know if I ever will, but if I did, I would probably get 1,000 emails saying, how dare you talk about that? And it's cube magic. Boy, I hate it. I really hate it. And seeing new cube tricks like every 2 weeks is just exhausting. One, I hated the cube when it was popular, which would have been in the late 70s, like 79 or maybe 1980, 81, somewhere in there. God, I'll just admit, I just couldn't do it. I still can't do it. My son, who's 30 this year, but when he was a kid, he could do it in like a minute and a half. He was really great at it, and that's fine. And I'll tell you, Steve Brundage, Steve, you go ahead and keep doing your cube magic because that stuff is awesome. If you watch, like, even on YouTube, some of all of the Got Talent shows, whether it's America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, Italy's Got Talent, and you watch all of these different talent shows, you're going to see a magician at some point do cube magic. Are the producers or even the judges or anything wondering at some point, do these guys got anything else than this stupid tricks with this cube? which isn't even, I mean, you could pick a cube up in the toy section at Walgreens, probably for $3 or something nowadays, but it's not the phenomenal social thing that it was in the late 70s and early 80s, where they sold just tens of millions of the things. And I don't see anyone's premise saying, hey, remember this old thing, which would probably be much more appropriate than just launching into a trick or going, hey, I love the cube or whatever. But I think if you went out and said, hey, but look what I found in a box in my dad's house, that kind of thing might soften the blow of people seeing the Rubik's Cube so much while people are performing. I'm probably a hey, get off my lawn, old fuddy duddy when it comes to that. They certainly are good sellers, and the people who are inventing this magic, it's all very clever stuff. I'm not saying it's not clever, but ask yourself the right question. Again, I should say, is cube magic popular? Because all these tricks that people are doing with the cube are just awesome, or is it because the prop is insanely easy to carry in our geeky magician bags and briefcases? If you ask yourself that, it might help you justify doing that cube magic, just knowing why you're doing it. It's like, no, this is the best trick ever. Well, is it? Or, oh, it's a pretty good trick, but darn, it goes right into the bag, and it's just right there when I need it. I can use it as an encore. Just justify it for yourself of why you're doing it, and I think you might find a little more satisfaction in performing it if you may have a good premise, or if you just are doing it for the right reason. So that's it. Thanks for hanging in there with me on this episode where I just wanted to get a few things off my chest. I've got some real magic stuff coming up. Some magicians who've said, hey, yeah, I'll come on and we'll have a chat about some stuff, restaurant magic and other things. So please stay tuned for that and have a great day.